Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of the CLGFGC podcast. Do we have a name? No, I'm just gonna roll with that. Listen, we're really behind on this name thing, like 5 episodes behind by this point. But I guess we're just rolling with it for now. We do have some changes though, because we have a new member to CLGFGC joining us today, Chris CCH. What's going on, Chris?
Hello. Glad to be here. What's up, Brian?
All right, first question: what's CCH stand for?
I can't tell you that, although I feel like I might have seen over some of the Street Fighter League stuff that it might have been exposed, which I'm not too happy about.
Okay.
Yeah, not too happy about that, but we don't talk about that.
I was trying to put you on the spot. I know it's a trade secret, but I didn't know it leaked somewhere. I'm gonna have to
It's been a bit of a
dig
leak,
through the archives here.
Yeah, it's not looking so good, but
someone knows the truth. But yeah, I guess we have a bunch of topics to talk about today. There's a bunch of world tours going on, the Tekken World Tour, Capcom Cup coming up, and arcrevo finals. But before we get into that, Tekken 8 is last time we were on here. It was that first reveal of Tekken 8, and we're doing all the speculation about it. We're like, okay, we're going into heat. What does that mean? And we actually got all the details now. And I think before the details, I think the big thing was Nina, right? We got the Nina reveal.
Yes, I believe the Nina reveal actually happened after the 30-minute PowerPoint slide of information that they gave us, which was, I think, a pretty good idea because I think personally it was information overload. But back to Nina, I call it a redesign because, with a lot of the characters in Tekken, they're legacy characters. They've been in the game since Tekken 1, and Nina's one of them. She's been in every Tekken, if I recall correctly. So we're kind of used to a certain look that she has. They really did her some justice here. She looks amazing.
She looks sick.
She looks phenomenal, and she's got guns.
Right.
I'm so excited. And that's going to be I think one of her special abilities that they talked about. Part of the heat stuff, probably even part of her rage art, things like that. I'm so glad they incorporated that to her. Because she's an assassin, so that makes
characters
sense.
who use guns.
Yeah, so true.
I saw a lot of people getting kind of heated about that. Let me keep dropping the heat references. But I saw people getting a little upset when they saw she had a combo ender where she popped out the Glocks and let it rip. People were like, "Oh no, that's not Tekken." I'm kind of confused. Maybe I need a Tekken player perspective here. Why is that not Tekken? What was the controversy there? Because it just looked like a combo finisher to me. I couldn't see anything weird about it.
Right. So, especially for a character like Nina, she doesn't have things like that in her style. A lot of the Tekken characters, most of them don't have weapons. Now we have Elisa, Yoshimitsu, but we've never had things a lot of those characters don't have that stuff. We're just in their moves, just incorporated into their.
But they've
moves.
been in the games, right? You have even all the custom moves, right? I mean, I've seen Akuma bust out a shotgun point blank range.
Right. So but that's not tournaments. That's not tournament. That's when you just customize it. That's not even legal. You can't do that in tournament.
Right. But it's right. I don't know. To me, I guess to a 2D player, we've had characters with guns before, and you conceptualize the gun as just another hitbox. It's not it's not a different attack. It's not special from a punch. It's just an attack with the hitbox. So I don't know why it's so controversial.
That's more like a Soul Calibur thing, right?
Right. So Calibur has things like that, but Tekken really doesn't. We are really just straight up just hand-to-hand combat. Usually really no weapons except for Yoshimitsu and Elisa. And even then, a lot of their moves don't even revolve around weapons all the time. So people are like, oh my God, there's gonna be a problem. And then we talk about chip damage, and Tekken players were spoiled. I'm going to be 100. The community, I think, is spoiled by the way things are. We're used to how things are. I personally don't mind, but I'm excited to invite change, but I understand how we kind of pride ourselves on, we kind of it's just straight up fighting. We don't have any of that special magical stuff, which is why the 2D characters kind of were hated for a very long time because also sorry, still are, my bad.
We'll get into more detail about that. Still hated for sure. But so is it just an aesthetic thing then? Her gun attack, people just feel it's not the vibe, not a mechanic. They just don't think it fits the vibe of Tekken because it's supposed to be hand-to-hand combat.
That's what I'm getting from it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we've never had anything like that.
Because
Not like
lore-wise, like Jin shoots lasers from his eyes. Like,
Yeah.
Right, and this is
Right,
Didn't
but that's
Nina have a rocket
Devil
launcher at one
Or
point, or
yeah.
just a
That's
meme I'm
Anna.
remembering?
That's Anna.
Anna, yeah,
So
Anna
it's
has
like
a
it's
rocket launcher.
there,
But
but yeah,
that's the
when
rage
they're
art.
fighting, like
That's the
they're just
rage
mostly
art.
using their fists and legs.
Exactly. So, you know,
splitting hairs, splitting hairs, man.
But that's the
It's
thing.
true,
It's a
though.
cinematic. Nobody cares. Like, I mean, like that's a rage art. Okay, well, you got to hold it. Like, whatever. It's not like you're actually fighting it in real time. And so I think people have to get used to this kind of dynamic, flashy. Okay, everybody's got different like special traits, like guns or rockets and rope and things like that. I think they just have to get used to it. People felt. I think
Sure.
they felt the same way about Tekken 7, where they're like, I don't know, this look a little weird, boss. I don't know what this is. So people were kind of hating on it before it even dropped.
Right.
We have to see more of it. I'm excited for it. We can also move. I know we can still move. We still have movement. It's not like we're just gonna have to hold all of this. That I think people are forgetting we have movement. One of the
Right.
most famous parts of Tekken is the movement. So Nina, overall, I think this was a great introduction to people really getting insight into some of the new mechanics in the game and what we can look forward to with the special techniques and stuff every character will have. They really want to focus on the individuals in the characters and how they play. They all want them to have something, from what I understood in the presentation. So Nina, the way Nina looks at makes me excited for what my characters can even have, what every character is going to have. They're going to be even more unique than in 7, is what I'm getting.
Right.
I gotta say, the weirdest thing, that conversation as a Guilty Gear player is
Yeah.
so weird. Like weapons are so like weird. I'm just like, that's all I've ever known.
It's like,
I
that's
thought they
like
were
all the
supposed to fight with weapons.
I'm playing 2D
Yeah.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though 7 had its own changes, I don't think the community is fully prepared for change. I think a lot of people are, but I think a lot of us are like, we're starting to feel a lot like Dead or Alive with a mix of Street Fighter. What's going on here? We never
No,
had
yeah,
chip
the-
damage in
right.
our game.
The
Like,
push-
what? Like,
The pushback on DLC characters, I always thought was the majority due to their character strength, but it was also like a huge part of the fact that the character designs were out of the ordinary from like
Right.
regular Tekken characters. And I think I always forgot that was a big part of why Tekken players disliked the DLC characters. It's not just how good they are, it's just how not Tekken like
odd
they
and
Right.
are.
non-Tekken,
That's
which
something
all
I
plays a
missed,
role.
too.
You know, it's all
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, I missed that too because like I mentioned just with Nina, I was thinking mechanically, why don't you like the guns? But then I didn't even consider that it's aesthetically. It's just that
Yeah.
the vibe of Tekken is this is more. It's not purely realism, but it's closer to realistic martial arts, right? Like these are normal punching and kicking without exaggerated limbs and movements. The juggles and the
Yeah.
effects of the hits are very exaggerated, but the moves themselves are kind of tied to reality, which does mean a lot of the characters kind of have similar looking attacks, not too much, but there is a lot of overlap to a degree.
Yeah,
Even
there
though
is,
the
yeah.
characters themselves, I think aesthetically are very unique. Like their visual design is very unique. I guess the aesthetics of how they fight is still grounded to a degree in reality. So I didn't consider that her just pulling out a gun and shooting, the aesthetic of that in a game, even if mechanically it doesn't change too much, is not Tekken like. So yeah, I don't know. 2D players, we're
Yeah,
used to
just-
that. I don't know. We're
Yeah,
used to
no,
over the
we're definitely used to it, but
based
I'm
on
happy
reality.
to see it in Tekken 8. Honestly, when I saw that, I was like, this is cool. This is my kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks sick.
Insanely
And I guess
flashy.
the big changes too. That's why I was surprised about the Nina pushback, because the main pushback was, of course, I don't want to just frame it as pushback. It's also just discussion and hype mixed of good and bad, because there's always people who are conservative with change, especially with Tekken, and other people who are looking forward to it. It's of course like the heat system. So we got a lot of details, even on the screen right now. Aggressive, highlighted
Yeah.
in quotes. So we got the details, and it's not a comeback mechanic. We called it, right. That was the prediction we made on the last podcast. Like, is it a comeback mechanic? No, it's just an aggression mechanic that you have out of the gate.
Right. And they discussed that, hey, Rage Drive is gone. But it's like in turn, we get like 5 different options of a Rage Drive now. So it's like
Right.
gone in one way, but presented as a heat system in another. So you can also use it for like combo routes and things like that. You really get to choose what you use it for, and you can use it wisely. Looking at it, I'm really excited for all the options we get to have. I think this is going to be one of the best Tekkens yet. That's just my opinion.
The one cool thing I liked about it was that they added chip damage when you're in heat, and
Yes.
then the way so people, if they're blocking, they're taking this gray damage. I'm calling it gray damage from Street Fighter. They called it, they refer to it as chip damage, I think, in Tekken. But you can recover that health if you attack back, kind of like Bloodborne. If you've ever
what?
played that, like recoverable damage. So it once again, like, so the person who pops, heat, they're being aggressive because they're getting the chip damage. But if you want to get back in the game, you need to be aggressive
fight back.
too.
Yeah.
Fight
Right.
back, and you can recover that damage. So I think they're doing a good job with it to be flashier and more explosive without making it just a pure comeback mechanic, because it applies to both ends, right? It's not like, oh,
Right.
I get this meter, now I'm good, I pop, and you got to deal with my shenanigans. It's like, oh, yeah, we both have this meter round start. We can both use it whenever, and it's every round. It recovers every round. You always have it, so you can always use it. And if you're on the receiving end of it, the answer is not to turtle up and wait it out. The answer is find your own opening and then fight back. So
Right.
I definitely see how they're really pushing this aggression thing to force people to come into contact with each other, but not in a way where I feel like it's rewarding the loser, which I think is always the concern with these sorts of things. And we've already kind of gone through, I think, the Street Fighter V and this past gen of fighting games, that was always the concern, was comeback mechanics. Now I think with Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6, I think they're fine tuning it to a degree where it's like promoting offense without it being comeback heavy.
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on. They also did mention that this was something that was kind of introduced with, I believe, Tekken Tag 2, where you could recover some of your health as well. So it's not a completely foreign concept to Tekken players, but a lot of people did not play Tekken Tag 2 competitively, and it wasn't well received overall. So I think a lot of people, this is their first introduction to it. But like you said, like, this is not a comeback mechanic where it's just like, oh man, I did all this work and then I just lose to something where somebody presses one button and I die. Like, no, like it rewards both people. You're attacking, and you are attacking to get the health back, but as they're attacking you, they get an advantage too. So it's not just like, one person's getting more advantage than another. So I think that was really important. I still think it keeps the high level concept, I think, but
Dude,
and it's not that straightforward. It's not like V-Trigger. It has a bunch of sub mechanics within it, so it's still a whole system to learn.
I'm really
very interesting.
It's very like in depth. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of playing, a lot of exploring that, because I mean, they could tell me all day in a 30-minute PowerPoint presentation about it, but I'm gonna have to get my hands on it so I can really understand what is going on. My favorite part is I saw Bound was still included. And Bound has been something that's been the game since Tekken 6. So I'm glad we still get different combo routes and things like that. Seems like there's a lot of variety we get to have with it, but it just depends on how you use it. So
yeah, dude, I'm just happy we lived through a generation of comeback mechanics. We made it. We made it to the other side.
That's like
I never thought I'd
now.
see this day come. Even in Strive, there's no comeback mechanics.
Yeah.
Right.
We
Yeah,
made it.
I think they realized like how to get the excitement of a super powered up state without making it purely based on comeback
Yeah,
mechanics.
just getting
right? It's
hit,
like,
yeah.
I like the install stuff. I like the dynamic pacing of a round, right? Like having different phases to a round. So like with Street Fighter with V-Trigger, like I don't hate V-Trigger, but there's
The
definitely
idea is
problems with
better
it.
than ultra generally ish, right? Or
Right.
no? Yeah.
Ultra's
Yeah, I
comeback
think
mechanic.
Ultra was just kind of not that
Yeah,
exciting.
it's yeah,
It's
for
just
sure.
this random you wake up with a fully invincible move and it might do half health. It's like kind of like
Yeah,
an
for
okie doke.
sure,
It's
for
just like kind
sure.
of corny, to be honest.
Mm,
So I like
yeah.
the install stuff because like it's cool that the beginning of the round is you fill each other out, then there's an intense spike, and then if you can survive that, I appreciate the phases of it, but yeah, having it be like you get hit and then get it, it leads to weird stalemates where people don't want to hit each other.
Want to
because
get
they don't
hit?
wanna give
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So Tekken giving it to you up front and just saying, hey, you need to think of when
Mhm.
to use this. I think that solves that issue and creates still dynamic states, because someone goes into rage right away, you survive it, you get chipped up, but then you don't actually take any big hits. Oh, wait a minute, my turn to pop rage. I'm going to get my powered up moves now. I'm going to be able to maybe land a clean hit first before going into it to extend my combo. I'm going to start building my health back. You blew your resource too early, and now I'm getting a bunch of momentum, and you're not going to really have that tool to come back. Like I think it leads to a lot more of a dynamic back and forth without it having that stalemate where it's like neither one wants to engage. And I think that was the big problem with a thing like V-Trigger. So I do like that the developers are getting a little more clever about how to create hype moments without it being like, oh, you hit me first, please. No,
like
I
overwhelmingly
insist.
one-sided, or whoever just decides first, or whoever doesn't decide first. That happened so much in Tekken 7. There were so many just like, okay, who's gonna press first? Barely any health. And everybody just do something, like, wouldn't do anything. As it was whoever could use the comeback factor first.
You know, Cuddle, I actually wanted to ask you about something in this. They mentioned that it's basically like, this is basically like the strike portion of it is basically like a universal thing, and it's like plus, they said, right? Like it's I believe they said it's plus. Isn't that like super weird for Tekken? Because there's not very many plus moves, right? Like that's pretty uncommon, right?
Wait, I'm sorry, which part? Which part were you talking
There's
about?
some part like when, what is it, the heat strike portion of it, like when you expend it for an attack.
Yeah.
It says it's basically plus. So isn't that like super weird for Tekken? Like I vaguely remember a lot of like, you know, quotations, good moves are based like even like -1, -2, not like plus, right?
Yes. So there are some moves that yeah, like the good moves a lot, like maybe they're like minus, right? Like you said, like -1, things like that. Some are plus, but it is a little usually it's on hit. But this is just on block, correct? This is what they were talking about with the heat strike. So it almost like forces you to hold it.
Yeah.
That is a little odd. I don't recall it ever being such a strong presence in Tekken, like moves like that. Now we have rage drives, and even those are like minus if you some of them are like minus if you block them, right? And then you can kind of step around them, and like, but this the you know, power crushes was also, I mean, oh my god, power crushes are in this game too. Yeah. So yeah, I think it is a little odd. Yes, that's a great question. It is a little different for us, and I think people are a little scared of that as well, having to be forced to hold a move like that and then have to guess, because that's a, if it's however, depending on how plus it is, that's a mix up. Now if it's like +4, you can still move, but even then those are frames that they have that you might not, and it's a risk for you. So yeah,
that's I was just thinking, because like I mean, obviously I know a lot of people are kind of terrified of stuff like that, like aggression always getting buffed, or like offense. But I was curious, like, if that's going to be as significant as it sounds, or if it'd be just like, you know, I don't know if it's like minus or +1, like, is that really that different from like -1? You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious of how it'll be. That's the one thing I really like when I read, or I went through the PowerPoint, as you put it. I was basically just like, that's really weird from like the frame data I knew from Tekken, just from playing like, you know, kind of casually, basically.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It is odd. I think with those types of situations, I think those are going to be like round enders. I think they're going to be like how you're going to close it out. I think those types of situations will be because of what's it called, heat strike. I think that's when they're going to use it strategically. I think that's what's going to happen. So I think it's going to matter a lot.
You don't think people are just gonna round start, heat strike, plus frame, you hold a mix up, die in one hit? Like because I see both, right? You can go for the gambit. Like I said, it doesn't have to be at the end of round. That's what's so exciting about it to me. You can bank it on it in the beginning if you really want to, but like, heat strike, here we go, my turn. Like you might die right now. And then if they survive it, you're like, oh crap, here we go. Now I'm you know, old basic Tekken fundamentals. Here we go. And then it's their turn to chip you up, heat strike, whatever. So I think that's fun. I think that adds a fun dynamic, because you can be ballsy or you can hold on to it, and you know, you can see if your bets pay off or not. So
I think a lot more versatility.
It's gonna be funny when both players do it at the same at the beginning. They're like, all right, I'm going in. You too? All right, let's do it. He's striking each other. Like,
it'll create a lot more dynamic situations, like when there's fighting, especially in tournament. So there's going to create a lot more explosions, a lot more you know, excitement, and that's what they want while you still get to play at high level, right? That's a great point, because you said it doesn't just have to be at the end of rounds. You can use it at the beginning or end. It's just really how you utilize it, right?
You might be too meek. Like maybe saving it for the end might be like I need to save this for when I'm losing, and then you're not actually being aggressive enough, right? It might be too late, because maybe what if you don't get that opportunity? What if you just get forced into a mix up and die, right?
You don't get to use it at all.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I feel like we're going to see a diverse play style is based around that. I think that's going to be pretty interesting to see. But what was definitely interesting to see, you know, not a subtle segue there, was the Tekken World Tour Finals, where this was actually aired. So we had the finals going on, and before we talk about the top 8, maybe we just quickly mentioned what didn't happen in the top 8. No Knee and no Arslan. This blew my mind. Both of them were in the same group. So Tekken has done the group stages for as long as I've known, at least for all of Tekken 7. I don't know if there was any previous iteration where they didn't do groups for pools. And then somehow Knee and Arslan ended up in the same pool, and neither of them made it out. Instead, what was it? Gerlanda and who was the other person? Was it from that group? I forgot who else.
Was it Chikuru?
Yes,
Chikuru and Gerlanda?
It might have been Chikrin. I have to look at the groups again because I know Al was also in that.
Yes, it was Chikrin. Chikrin made it out in winners of that group, and Gerlanda made it out in losers. And then Arslan and Knee got 4th and 5th, and then out of 6 people. So the 2 favorites, I think, beyond a doubt, Knee was he just won Evo, and then Arslan Ash previous year had won Evo Japan. I don't know if that was previous. That might have been 2 years ago.
2.
Yeah, there was kind of a little bit of downtime in between because of COVID. Evo Japan and Evo. Didn't make it out. That was wild. Is that like a huge upset to anyone else? Like, am I alone in thinking that was nuts that they were in the same group?
No, no, a lot of everybody kind of just obviously. I think who picked when was determined by how you placed.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But, or maybe how you were seated, if I recall correctly. But the weird thing was we didn't expect that they would both be in the same group. It didn't make sense. And then for either of them to not make it out, Al was the one who sniped both of them, and he didn't even make it out. And Al is amazing. Like for him to do that, it was very convincing. Like we talked about, these were the tournament favorites here. We expected probably to see both of them in grand finals, or at least in the top 3.
Right.
So I love how it was, it was definitely a shakeup, but it was very odd. But that's what makes the tour so special, is that it's never going to be the same people all the time.
But do you like that? I don't like that, actually. I'm actually not a fan of group stages where the favorites go down early. I actually think that's really bad. That's why I have a lot of critiques about these group formats and randomized. Like, I think seeding is super important, and I think having the favorites go down early hurts the narrative of the season. It hurts the viewing experience, and I don't think it's as, I don't know. I think it makes a bad final product. Like, I think putting Arslan and Knee, Harada should have stepped in and be like, hey, never mind. Like, he should have intervened. It should have been collusion at that point, because that ruins the story. Like, I think that's really bad for the viewing experience. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in that. I think there's a lot of problems with that sort of structure for finals. I think it ruins the story of the season.
I think that's fair, because there was certain storylines that we were following, and for them to easily be put in the same pool, and for them to technically have to cancel each other out, one has to go, right? That was, nobody expected it. But I do feel like there were so many other storylines that we didn't know about, or we got to learn a bit more about, because it gave more exposure to players that we didn't know, or we hadn't really seen much of until they came here to represent the region. So I guess, but I also think it's the fact that Arslan and Knee are not the only top tier players who deserve to be focused or followed in these events. I think that mattered too here. Give a bit more shine to other people. Yeah, the seating and format was a little off, and that really shouldn't have happened. But things like this happen with Tekken all the time, and and I think you got what you got to do. You were a competitor. You have to be ready. That's just kind of how it feels. Yeah, I get what you mean, but
it's blatantly unfair, though. I mean, randomized pools make it blatantly unfair. I don't think that's debatable. Some groups will become objectively easier than others, where you can stack all the people who are objectively better, have consistent results over years in one
that
group.
pool was a ridiculous one. Everybody said group A.
Chikuru and Gerlanda, AO, Arslan Ash, and Knee, and then Divine Exorcist. I mean, you can tell me better where you would rank that person, right? But like, that pool just seems more stacked than the others. And I'm not an expert here.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Yeah. So you get
situations
situations like that where it's just it's unfair. And to me, I don't think having them not make it out of pools is exciting as a player making an upset in a double elimination bracket. That to me is a significant win, where having a win in a group stage is not as impactful as a storyline. So if you're going to be the one to make the upset over the favorite, I think doing it in a double elimination bracket is where you're going to have that moment. Like, yes, I beat Knee. Yes, I beat Arslan Ash. So I think in general, it makes it all go, like, I think it deflates the moment for everyone involved to a degree. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I really think double elimination is more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the guy who did take out both of them and had a pretty deep, like a really great like run in that group didn't even make it out because
right.
there were so many. Yeah.
AO is the guy who how do you pronounce his name? Sorry.
Ow, sorry, my bad. Ow.
Al was the one who he was the wrench in the bracket, but it was just for personal pride and he didn't get to advance at all. So
it was very unfortunate.
At the end of the day, how impactful is that? So groups are both cool and kind of whack to me. I don't know. Sometimes I don't really like groups for that reason. But it did lead to one cool storyline, which was Gerlanda making it out of that group and getting the top 8, and not just making it out, continuing the run, which is the important part, because getting out of the groups is like one thing, cool, right? But continuing the run is where I think you start to have the storyline amount to something. So I think, like, I don't momentum. Know, you have some things to share about Gerlanda?
Oh yeah, no, I read that story on Twitter the other day, and it was also really cool because as a player that's like really old, you know, he's got 2 full-time jobs, you know, he's got a family, doesn't have much time to play, and he still like practices like just a little bit, like 2 hours a day. Yeah, and still like is able to get to that high level. I actually thought that story was amazing when I was reading about it. And I think it's cool that that like he was able to like make that run, like even like despite like the crazy pool that he got out of. Like I think that's wild. And then I made a tweet that I don't know why I'm getting a lot of flack for it even now still, but I basically just said I thought it was more impressive than 14-year-old Zoomers that don't pay taxes like becoming a champion in a few months. I said that. That's
because we're old and biased.
Yeah, and they will call me a boomer, and that's fine. I don't.
Did you get a lot of flack in that tweet?
Yeah, how much we talking? A little bit, but you know, I just was so like about that story because as someone like, you know, who was, you know, working for a bit and like was like a full-time college student and like didn't have much time to like play, like it resonated with me a lot. I'm like, damn, dude, he still got to that level despite all these time commitments. And you know, I too often hear the like Fortnite kid at 14 like becomes a millionaire or something.
Right, like what responsibilities, what concerns do they have? You're a child, right? No, I think that's a very understandable comparison that you're making, because this man is a family man, and that's a 24/7 job, right? He's the provider, the protector, he's there. And the fact that he still had time to invest in something that he loves. I just want to say this real quick. The World Tour format this year, I think, helped that for people who couldn't go to all that. So, but you know, even though I did hear a lot of complaints about online, I feel that. But I still saw him grind it out to do it. But he was able to do it from his home, which it is convenient for people who are so busy like that and have those types of schedules. So he was able
100%.
to
100%. We see the same complaints in the Street Fighter scene, right? But we've seen both. Like people have called the Capcom Pro Tour the Capcom Pay Tour before because it's basically pay enough to go to every tournament to farm enough points. And then at the same time, when it went to online, it's like, okay, the people who don't get to travel as much, they can get their shot at representation. But then people also argue, but then it's not necessarily the most skilled player. So there's like a give and take there. Yeah, right. There's a give and take there. But for sure, you see people who are really good who don't get to go to these events. And I definitely relate to that. I mean, I'm still working full time myself. I mean, I understand the grind. It's tough. And I want to point out Chris here. He's staying humble here. But I know Chris, he's in Capcom Cup right now, and he can't even practice because he has all his midterms right now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just got out like a little bit ago.
Much respect.
But I've also been both, because I was also the 14-year-old kid with no responsibilities playing this game at one point. So I got to experience both sides of it.
He's like, oh wait, this is hard. I gotta do homework now and practice Street Fighter. Wait a minute, this is tough. But none of us have done it with also having kids. Like that's
and a family, dude. Yeah, that's
that's the next level. I'm thinking about that. Like, man, I don't know. Like
how could but you played one of them. You played them all at some point. You might not have the same time, but 2 hours, you know, once you understand how your schedule works with being a parent and all that and having a job, it really doesn't seem too bad, especially if it's a legacy kind of game. That's why people can play Tekken. I really think that's why people can,
I think that's a big plus to Tekken for sure, because I've been thinking about that with Street Fighter 6. Like the amount of time I had to grind Street Fighter 5 when it first released compared to now, it just, you know, being in a relationship and having a dog, it's like I can't no life Street Fighter 6 the way I did Street Fighter 5. Like I went to work and then I came back and I didn't talk to people. I just played the game, streamed, and went to work again. And that worked for years. And that's how I was able to, you know, keep learning that game. But Street Fighter 6, it's a new game. Like there's fundamentals, but it's not the same game. So I'm a little like, oh man, how many hours can I grind on learning a new system? But yeah, if you're efficient though, you can definitely maintain a certain level. Like I think people are pretty inefficient with their practice hours, and they kind of flounder around.
No, oh yeah, for sure. And another thing that I also wanted to like talk about was like I think people like overvalue like experience matters. It definitely helps, but I think ultimately being able to just grind for like a period of time and get the amount of hours and play it under your belt, I think that has like sometimes to personally to me more value than like experience in a lot of ways. At least I'm seeing it more nowadays. Like experience still matters a lot. You know, you have the mental fortitude and it'll get you through some hard matches. But yeah, no, it's cool. I just love seeing the old dogs, you know, still put in work and like get really far in brackets.
Yeah.
He went over. He got out of the death group with Arslan and Knee, and then he beat Joey 2-0, and then beat Nobi 2-1. That was a huge victory. I think he won with the Wake of Rage art.
Because he went
Rage art at the end.
Yes, because Nobi got him to the wall. Then Nobi was about to mix his butt up. It was back turn. So with his back turn, you got to guess. He said, "You know what? How about I not?" And I just rage art you, because in Fang's back turn, you got to guess technically, or you know, if you guess wrong, you die. And he didn't have that much health, so he could have. So Gerlanda, making such a great split second decision, rage arted, and that neutralizes all of that. So.
Right. Dude, it's so great how often people wake up rage art in Tekken compared to Street Fighter, when like everyone's like, oh no, wake up supers in Tekken, it's over. But then actually they use it all the time. And in Street Fighter, it's so rare in Street Fighter 5 to see a wake up super. Not even just because it's like a non-recoverable resource like rage, but like that moment, that was last hit, last round tournament. Like it would be so rare in Street Fighter. We have last hit, last round situations all the time with full CA, and most people never wake up super. Like you just don't see it. So it was super funny to watch the tour. I watched the top 8 and I saw like at least 4 rounds won by wake up rage art at the very end. And man, these people, they go for it. It was sick.
For sure. I feel like a Street Fighter player might just use the 3 EX moves instead, you know, but maybe it's because the resources.
They'll survive the wake up Oki and then try to use the meter to like force the advantage instead of just swinging for the fences. But no, in Tekken, they're like, it's time. Yeah, I guess after that, he went on to lose then to John Ding, who I think also had an amazing run. John Ding came in loser side of top 8 and then went 2 over, please correct my pronunciation, Rafe?
I think it's Rafe or Rife?
Rife, and then Yan Narang, and then Gerlanda, then Chikaroon, he won 3-2. And then grand finals, we finally had Pakistan in the grand finals after being so dominant since Arslan burst on the scene in Evo 2019, I believe. Atif Butt was there, winner side, cooking it up with good old 2D Akuma, and the scrub quotes and the Tekken chat, they were delicious. I love when Akuma wins in Tekken. People are so
we don't like that. We don't like that.
I love it. I love it so much.
we don't like that. Nah, like, but I mean, hey, you do what you gotta do to win. The thing is, Atif Butt, it's funny. I was talking to somebody about this, but I was like, he's like Mokujin, like, because he can play multiple characters at that level. He will counter pick you, it seems. I mean, when he went against Anakin, this was like almost like deja vu, because this was not the first time. I think this was also at Rev Major where Atif Butt counter picked Anakin with Leo. He saw something. So he does switch, but when it's go time, like, hey, like, you know, it's Akuma. This is grand finals. And John Ding was trying so hard, but Atif Butt had the momentum, the advantage, the mental advantage on the winner's side. John Ding had clawed and fought and scraped to get through, and he was doing it, but you have to have so much energy to fight Akuma, it feels.
How often do players have multiple characters like that in Tekken? I feel like learning a new Tekken character takes like a really long time, right?
A lot of people.
I think it's pretty common, actually.
Yeah,
very common.
If I would compare it to Street Fighter, I think more Tekken players have like secondaries.
We have a lot of secondaries. Actually. Third, you know, we have they come tertiaries as well, and like fourth. They got all of them. They got all of them. And sometimes you need to for 7 because there's so many matchups that are just so sometimes one-sided that you need that, or you just need an edge. So yes, it's actually highly common, which is probably why you saw people switching a lot during the final. And
Right. Yeah,
happens a lot in
it's pretty
tournament.
common to see them switching. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but with Tekken, I think it probably takes a super long time to learn how to learn your first and second character. But then after that, I think you figure out how to streamline the process because so much of the game is core mechanics. I feel like
That's true, yeah.
if you can play good Tekken, you can play good Tekken. So I
Yes.
think you kind of figure out how to streamline the 270 moves down
Sure,
to like
there's a
the
lot of universal
40
mechanic,
that you
yeah.
need.
Yes.
Sure. That makes
Exactly.
sense.
What Brian said, once you get the first 2 down, because that takes a while to master, right? So then once you get that, you're like, especially when you watch other people play those characters, because you're watching tournament anyway, you already kind of know what's what. So it's just about you applying that stuff. Because we all know that 1, 2, 3, 4, what connects to those limbs. And a lot of characters, like we talked about earlier, those moves, like there are similar moves that characters have. Like everybody kind of has a down forward 1 or a certain type of jab or jab into a low, stuff like that. So when you learn those things about your characters, it makes it so much easier to transfer that to every other character you use. It's so easy. Like that's why a ton of like Tekken players and even like competitive ones, they can just pick up characters, go to rank, just because you already had the fundamentals. Like so.
Right. Yeah, I think that's actually harder than Street Fighter. In Street Fighter, I think it's much harder because if I were to like just pick a random character, I could copy some stuff just by seeing other people do it. But if I didn't like know the frame data for that character, I wouldn't know punishes or like, you know what I'm saying? Like I would, people would get away with a lot more stuff on me.
That kind of comes from like learning the matchup against the character too, though. Like once you learn a matchup of like how a character, when you learn how to fight a character, you're going to learn how they work as well. And I think it's not too hard to translate, especially like you're going to learn all their frame data and stuff. As long as you remember the inputs for everything they're going to do. And as long as you've like watched a lot of like high level footage of this character.
It depends on the character. If the character has like
plan.
a solid anti-air, then yeah, I think that's the one thing. If they have a weird anti-air in Street Fighter, then you're gonna get smoked because you're just gonna lose to people jumping. But if they have a basic anti-air, then yeah, you can sort of do that to a degree. But I think in Tekken, people just outmove bad players so hard that they can avoid being in bad situations. So you don't have to be as clutch. Like you can just out fundamental them so hard. Where in Street Fighter, I feel like you're kind of forced to like clash. So you kind of have to have that muscle memory.
But,
knowledge checks are huge in Tekken. Like knowledge checks are like such a huge part of it. And once you know how to do that, you know how to move around everything. You know how to respond to certain things. You can. It's so obvious, like the skill gap when that happens. When you when certain players fight. Yeah.
But speaking of skill gap, Atif Butt, man, 2 over Nobi, 3-2 Chikaroon, 3 over John Ding. And everyone hated it. I loved it. It's so funny. I gotta reiterate that.
You know they did because nobody. Look, maybe some people do, but a lot of us don't want to see Akuma do what Akuma does in Tekken. We need to belong here.
Let's go, Atif Butt. Let's go.
Like, it was so.
I agree.
So I'm gonna be 100 with you. It was so boring to watch, but I will say this:
I loved it.
He's good. You know, he's good. Aside from the character, he's just good at the game. You do what you got to do to win. You got to get the dub. And Akuma is a very popular character over in Pakistan, especially with the top players. So I get it. You got to get the dub. You got to do what you got to do. Which I thought it was Geese at one point. I thought that was like the go-to guy, but I guess they said
that was the Tief's other character, right? Like I saw him win a couple tournaments with Geese, if I remember correctly. So I know, am I remembering that wrong? I think he had a really strong Geese as well. I know he plays other characters, but I'm remembering some other tournaments that he was pretty dominant in. But yeah, I think it's just sick that Pakistan got a Tekken World Tour win. Because they've been so dominant, and it's cool that it's not Arslan. Like I think Arslan winning would have been cool for the main storyline, but it still blows my mind that Arslan came out of nowhere to win Evo, and then they're like, wait a minute, there's more. And then
he's like, nah, it's not just me.
Who's the highest placer at Evo last year?
Khan.
Khan. Yeah, like there's so many good players.
Yes, it was.
Right?
He's good as hell. Like,
second at Evo? Am I
at Evo,
third, maybe?
Third? No, I thought he got second. I think he got second.
You're right. It's second.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just really cool. Like so I recently saw that Corey gaming video on Pakistan Tekken again. And it's just so insane like what the players like have to do there to like get good at Tekken, but they're all really, really dedicated. It's not just Arslan. There's like a ton of strong players, and seeing Atif Butt like win, I was like that's sick. Like
I was super happy.
A lot of dedication and devotion, especially like when there is I know they've talked about the fact that their internet, like the online thing, isn't like it's not good, so you are forced to meet up with people offline, which has made them even stronger. I think that's amazing. They have like meetups, like I watch the stream where they'll have like the first twos, like first to seven, different matchups and things like that. Yeah, a lot of grind.
It's not just their online's not good, their power's not good, right? Like it's
so many things.
tough, man. They're out there.
Their equipment's not good. They're
so they really had to
custom
resort to
hardware.
offline.
Yeah, their power cuts out in the middle of their sets, but they grind it out. Like it's actually really inspiring to see how dominant they are out of nowhere. Like it's mind blowing to see that there was still a pocket of the world that was not exposed to the greater scene. Because you always hear about that, like, oh yeah, no, my brother down the street, his friend is actually the best Street Fighter player, and you're like, okay, whatever, bro. Like they just don't get it, like how the scale of skill. But then it's like, hey, no, my friend in Pakistan, he's really good, I swear. Like, yeah, whatever, buddy. Okay.
And then he shows up at your local tournament and bodies, the top player in
Pakistan. It's just Arsene Ash. It's like, I'm his friend from Pakistan.
Right, exactly.
The whole group of players start coming out to the events, which is what we've seen. And they've been beating our usual favorites to win tournaments.
Crazy. So I'm happy to see that for sure. So shout out to Teef Bud for winning for Pakistan and for winning for the 2D enjoyers and making it
absolutely. Yeah.
Whatever.
He's a hero. He's a hero to me for that one for sure. But speaking of heroes, maybe let's shift gears here to Capcom Cup to see who's going to be the hero coming up next week. So at the time of this recording, Capcom Cup is going to be next week. Basically, the group stages are going to start, and there's a lot of killers in there, including you, Chris. You're in a Capcom Cup. I guess we're going to do some predictions here, talk about it a bit. And I guess start with you because you're in literally the most messed up group in the entire thing.
It's a pretty fun group, I think. It was kind of funny because I didn't get to watch the group selection live, so I just saw my group after it was finished. So I went to Discord and asked hey, who'd I get in my pool? And everyone was like, I'm so sorry for you.
Every day there's gonna be what 2 matches played, 3 matches, or 1 per group played.
I think they're doing 5 matches per day per group. So they have blocks set out for each group, and they each play 5 matches and then move on to the next group.
Damn, I mean that's kind of cool. But I know I get that it's a lot.
That's gonna be pretty draining on the players. Yeah.
They're celebrating a little too hard.
They're partying.
I feel like it's a little bit less exciting to watch too, honestly, because when you're watching the first day, it's nothing here is really at stake. Anything, right? It affects the Saints, of course, but literally anything could happen after the first day. It's only the third day when things get really exciting and people start getting eliminated. Everybody starts getting eliminated.
That's why I feel like you should do just a complete group block per day, or 2 groups per day or whatever, because then every single day matters. I don't really understand. I don't really get it. I guess everyone's going to be equally as fatigued for the top 16. In the name of fairness, everyone's brutally tired by top 16. But we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting experiment. I'm not 100% against it. I think they could iron it out. Maybe viewers will like it. I don't know. We'll see. It's a little ridiculous to attend.
Street Fighter 6 there too, also, right? For people to play.
They'll have Evo style booths. I don't think it's going to be anything new though. I think it's going to be the same builds that they've had for the beta. I don't think they're going to give you Honda and Blanc and all that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, I mean, that's good for people who are visiting and haven't been able to play the game. So I don't know how restrictive that'll be for audience members, if it's going to be Evo style lines where you get 20 minutes and you waited 3 hours in line. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope they have a lot of Street Fighter 6 because I don't know what else everyone's going to be doing for the
I know for that long
6 extra days, like you said.
When is when does everything start? When's the LCQ? Is Sunday. That early?
Sunday and Monday is a 2-day LCQ, but it's not even at the main venue. So that's starting this Sunday. Whenever this goes live, it might already be going on or already happened. So that's what I'll be competing in, and it's at a different venue than the main thing.
Go get him, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Going in to have fun. That's my plan. I think that makes me my most dangerous if I'm just trying to have fun. That means if I'm having fun, that means my opponent's not having fun. That's always
exactly. That means they're blocking Tengu stones.
Yeah.
Hopefully not blocking. Hopefully they're disrespecting them and just eating 800% combos for no reason. That's kind of my plan. So they're doing that for 2 days, and it's 3 days of group stages, and 2 days for Street Fighter League finals, which I don't even understand what that format is.
Wait, that's in there?
Why?
They're doing a lot. 3 days for the groups, 2 days for Street Fighter League. So the EU champions, the USA champions, and the Japanese champions are playing in an undisclosed format that I don't know if the greater public has had any word on, and that takes place over 2 days. and they're shoehorning that in before Capcom Cup, and then the entire top 16, which is like the main show, is on the final day. So that's what they're doing. Kind of a weird distribution.
You've lost me.
No,
I mean, we don't know either.
hell no. They are really
It's just
trying
a
to burn
lot.
these people out.
This
Oh
is-
my
this is a
god.
marathon.
Yes,
What
and
is this?
some of the people
No way.
in the Street Fighter League finals
Never
are
heard
in
of anything
Capcom
like this
Cup.
before.
I was
And
gonna ask,
yeah,
are
so
they in it?
yeah, some of them. So there's definitely a
my
chance
God.
that there's going to be a person who's going to show up and have to play from Tuesday until Sunday every day
Oh
in high
my
stakes
god.
matches.
Dude, There's gonna be plenty of
Shit. Real
people by the end of
possibility.
this that are like, I don't want to look at SF5 ever again.
That's the goal, baby. Burn everybody
Yeah,
out.
just
This
burn
is
them
it.
out.
I'm excited for 6.
I was
That's
you
it.
really like SF5.
There are some players who
This
could
is
play
it.
from Sunday as well. Like Problem X
What?
is in the LCQ, so
Yeah, the
Problem X could definitely
LCQ.
win the LCQ,
Oh,
then
that's right.
qualify for top
Oh
16,
my
then
God.
play in the Street Fighter League finals, and then
Then
play in the top
play in the
16.
fi-
He could be playing for eight
Yeah.
straight days
Hell
of high stakes
no.
matches.
Oh my I thought Tekken had it bad.
Disintegrate on stage. Yeah.
If the player sacrifice adds to the viewing experience, sure, but I have my doubts about it. So we'll see how people feel about it. Maybe at home it'll be nice and cozy to tune in here and there. Hey, what's going on with that Street Fighter thing? You know, just tune in for a little bit, in the middle of the day, tune out. We'll see. But yeah, interesting format. Kind of borrowing from the Tekken World Tour format. I guess now that we're on the topic of the World Tours, why don't we talk a little bit about arcrevo, and you know the final qualifiers for that just happened at Frosty Faustings, and what we can talk about that format since we're on the World Tour kick.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah. It's a simple
Sucks
format.
so
It's simple.
bad.
Very easy to understand, but it sucks.
Yeah, it is.
Ah.
You guys have described like all the different like stuff that could be going on in these formats for you guys. I can tell you literally what the arcrevo is like format is in like basically 1 or 2 sentences. It is, if you win the tournament it's associated with, you're in. If you don't, that's it. There's no point system. There's nothing else. It is quite literally, you win a tournament, or you get second if the winner has already qualified, and that's it.
Nope.
That's all there is to it.
No.
You know, Street Fighter used to be like that when things were more simpler back when you know times
Yeah,
were,
before they learned
times
how
were
to
simple.
tour.
I
Yeah, a
didn't
long
think
time ago.
about that. How you feel
But
about
how
that?
many spots were there to qualify for each game? Is it the same for DNF Duel and Guilty Gear? And first of all, how many games are there? Are they doing
There's
DBFZ
two.
even?
It's just
No,
it's
it's just Strive and DNF.
Strive, yeah, and it's
Okay.
a total of 8 players for each game. So
See, that's what's brutal about it.
Yeah.
I think it would be fine to a degree. I mean, I think auto qualifiers have issues too, but the
Mhm.
more spots you add, I think it sort of balances out to a degree. But
Yeah.
having only 8 is just so brutal. It's hard to
Yeah.
like really appreciate the finals because it doesn't feel like it's the culmination of enough buildup.
exactly,
It's just like
exactly.
here's the first 8 people to win. Go play a tournament.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
It feels a
you know
little cut
it's
short.
not even all the tournaments that people put a lot of stock into or a lot of weight into, right? Because like
Right.
it's all based on whichever one's arcs chooses, and of course like there's so many there's so much shit about it that just sucks. Like there's not really that many ones outside of just like there's like 2 in Europe and like everything else are like maybe like 4 in North America, then the rest are in Asia. So like if you're from
Yeah.
if you're a really good like South American player, it's like a huge trip for you, or just anywhere outside that region. So like a lot of the players are ones we've pretty much already seen pretty extensively, right? So like you guys were talking about, oh, there's some like killers we don't really know about in the Capcom bracket or in the group stage, and pretty much everybody in ours we just fully know about, and we've seen these people play before, right? Which really kind of sucks because I qualified for the arcrevo tour in 2019, and that one was actually more fleshed out in comparison. That one actually had a point system, and if you, of course, it was the same with like if you win, of course you get in, but if you like depending on where you placed, how many like tournaments you went to, you would get a certain amount of points, and then players from each region with the highest points would be included in outside of on top of there being an LCQ, which there was a lot. There was like maybe they basically did a tournament and each pool was an LCQ was how they basically formatted it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so like it was basically like one day there was about 12 LCQs going on.
Y'all had that too? Tekken had that.
Yeah.
Wait, Tekken had that also? No way.
Oh, yeah, we had that. Back
Welcome to the.
I remember that for
Oh my
DBFZ
God.
mostly.
Yeah. So yeah, for
DBFZ did
that
that
too,
happened.
you're
In,
right.
yeah, for
You're
Dragon
right,
Ball,
yeah.
that happened its first season. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I experienced probably like the worst tournament ever.
That was you. Yeah, that was you.
that was
I
awful.
remember your misery now.
What
Okay.
happened?
I see it in your face. Okay, I see
Yeah,
the trauma is still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's no water there either. It was the worst. But yeah,
No
basically
water.
though, I'd say like this arcrevo tour was pretty similar to the first season Dragon Ball tour, where if you won, you got in, right? But they had an LCQ, so if there was multiple winners, it wouldn't just go down to the second person. They would just create another LCQ. So guess who won? 4 of them, Kazunoko. Thanks a lot.
Oh.
He created 4 LCQs, and they were all in one day. So they had to make it single a live because they didn't have time. Otherwise,
God.
4 single limb LCQs that were seated the exact same way, except for the pools were randomized.
A recurring nightmare you can't escape from.
Yeah.
I made it out of my pool all 4 times, and the first person I play right out of all of them is Aqua, and I had to play him 4 times, 4 tournament sets in one day. When I got out of the 4th one, I was like, it's him. He won't leave me alone. I can't get away from him.
The beauty of multiple LCQ.
When it's like that though, like it's you don't even like the World Tour is almost like it loses a lot of weight and a lot of meaning, right? It's just like this shit's a joke, right? Like
Right.
And I mean, like, the Guild Ticket community with Arxis has always been like, oh, they're doing arcrevo, who cares, sort of thing, but it sucks that it's like that, especially when like, it's still really cool, like watching Tekken World Tour and Capcom Pro Tour from like, the outskirts of it. Whereas I feel like, most casuals don't even really think about it for arcrevo because there's not a lot of attention on it or a lot of people talking about it because it's always so simple and just like, oh, it's just how it is, right? And like there are a lot of players that people really wanted to see in it that had great placings across multiple tournaments, like Latif, and Latif got second. So
I'm looking at the results. He got second at the mix-up and second at Frosty Fostings, and didn't make it in.
Sorry, bud.
Damn.
Sorry, bud.
I think there's something to be said for consistency. Winning is just too hard and too many factors required on that one day where you have a handful of players that any one of them could win on any given day if like all the variables go right for them. Like the margins are so razor thin at the highest level for pretty much every fighting game that that's the main problem with just having the qualifier, the first place qualifier to get in, because you're not getting the full picture. Like people can win on one day and then never win ever again. Whereas a person who gets second 8 times in a row, it's like that person is clearly the better player than the guy who got first one time and then doesn't even get top 16 the rest of the events, right? Like consistency is so huge in fighting games, and that was always a problem with early CPT seasons, and then they kind of tweaked that until COVID happened, right? So I think the weight for CPT when they started ramping it up in Street Fighter 4, the first couple ones were kind of weird and people were like, what is this? And then I think when Street Fighter 5 hit, it like really came into its own and people really valued it. And the point system made it so that you had a horse in the race, right? Like you could track it over time, and everything was building steam, building momentum to the end of the season. So like every event mattered. And I think that helped keep interest across many different smaller events as well. And there were still problems with it. They tweaked it more and more as they went on. But I think a point system like that is definitely helps keep you aware of what you're building towards. Because I'll consider myself the casual for the Arc World Tour. I know nothing about it, and I watch these tournaments. Like I'm not like a hardcore Guilty Gear fan or DNF Duel fan, but play the games, I watch them. I've seen these tournaments, I've seen these top 8s. I don't know what's going on for the tour. Like I don't know what's happening. And if I don't know what's happening and I'm a huge nerd, like how does a casual player, a casual viewer going to know what's going on? Like it's not communicated well.
Yeah, it's basically just like, oh, so this person wins. Oh, they qualified. And you're like, what do they qualify for? That's cool. Like, but what happened?
Right.
Like,
what's the storyline here?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It just sucks. And like, of course, like again, most of the qualifying players, because of, like a lot of these were in just North America, like just normal North American tournaments that they go to. There's just the majority of North American players, right? There is like Zondo from Israel, Mochi and TY from Japan, Gobo as well. and Skill from France, and everyone else is from North America. And it's, Umisho, Nubenheimer, and Tempest. So these are all players, I've seen that these matchups like almost weekly online. So, it's not as interesting. A lot of it is like, oh, we haven't seen Mochi versus a lot of these players. I wonder how that's going to go. And that's it, right? That's the storyline. And that
the storylines, mostly just like Asia versus NA. Because before at the beginning, because of COVID and like a lot of like travel restrictions, and a lot of them didn't really travel that much. Like when I went to Korea for their tournament, I actually realized, I was like, wow, this is actually the first time a lot like the NA players that did go to Korea are interacting and playing against Asian players. So that's insane, because that's always been a long told storyline in Arxis games, is just like Asia, Asia, America, right? And it's actually not really been fully realized that much in Strive yet. So
not even close.
It's just so disappointing, man, because the game is so competitive. There's so many good players. Like Frosty had like over 1,000 people in such a sweaty tournament, and like the tour just, I don't know. I really hope.
Lifeless. It feels so lifeless.
It really does. And I really hope like for the next tour, if they do one, it's a point system. Like for Dragon Ball, right? The first year they're like, wow, that was terrible. We're not going to do that again. The 4 LCQs, that's hilarious. I don't know who got screwed by that, but we're going to learn from that. And then season 2, they did a point system, and it actually was good. I qualified. I was like, yes, finally a point system that rewards consistency.
So good now.
Good system. Anyway, but yeah, I hope they do some sort of point system that rewards consistency, because it's so hard to be consistent in Strive, man.
I'm wondering if part of this was influenced by the fact that, we were still coming out of COVID, really. So everyone else did online qualifiers, but then Arc World Tour, they did, offline qualifiers. So I think we're still in between this phase. So I think to give them credit, like it's not easy right now to do a tour.
Of course.
So I think that's kind of where it happened, right? Everyone else did full online, which obviously has its own issues, some benefits, but a lot of issues as well. And then they said, let's do it offline. And then here you go. You only have 8 tournaments to qualify for, which I think that's the big problem, is that it's not enough time to flesh it out. So they probably had to do that. Like if with only 8 tournaments, how you do a point system? Right. It went from, I'm looking at the dates. I went from August Evo until now. So what is that? That's the 8th. That's like 4, 5, 6 months. They did it in half a year, right? It's half the time with way less events that even exist today. So I kind of get it, but having only 8 players kind of sucks. I think that's also making it not feel as much of a world tour culmination, like the best in the world. 8 players is like a nice little invitational, maybe.
It's also even really short. Like the arcrevo, the first arcrevo they had for Strive, at least in NA, it had like 9 players, and the matches, there wasn't that many. It was just like, it felt like it was over in like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy. Enough matches.
I already forgot that happened, and that was just, you're right, because they did do on online qualifiers for that too. You're right. I completely forgot about that. But of course, like,
wow,
the Strive community hates playing on PS4 for online stuff. So they just like, it was just like a joke to them, basically, like, this shit's memes, So I don't know. It's hard to please everybody, but it's still just like, I think a world tour to me involves a lot of players that are very strong from different regions, and I think it's something that should definitely promote, obviously, like you said, consistency. But it almost feels like one of those things, like you could have just maybe left it a year, give it a little more time to cook,
right.
Because then it's just like, not many people are really talking about it. Like nobody talks on the same level as a lot lot of these other regions, or like other tournaments.
Tekken World Tour, Capcom.
You're right.
I feel like that's
heard
always
really
the
anything about it.
How does this tournament affect the standings? How does this affect, like, for us? It's like, oh, he won. I guess he's in.
Cool.
I remember watching Frosties, and I was just like tuning into it, and I literally did not know that it was qualifying for anything until the tournament was over, and I saw like tweets about it. I just thought everyone was coming to this tournament and wanted to have a good time.
Well, I think that's what it was. That's the thing. You're not wrong. I think Frosty was big not because it's a qualifier for Arc Revo, or Arc Finals. It added a bit to it, but Frosty's big. It's Frosty's. So I still feel like Guilty Gear and Arxis games are still operating on the pre-tour model, where these tournaments are big because we all agree that these are the big tournaments to go to, right? Which was how it was for Street Fighter before the Pro Tour was really a thing. Street Fighter 4 and all that. It's like the CEO is big because it's CEO, right? Combo Breaker is good because it's Combo Breaker. Final round, back when that was a thing, it's good because it's final round, right? Not because any tour. And then that's changed with the tours, and then certain tournaments rose to that occasion, and then added to the ongoing storyline. But Guilty Gear and Arc Sys games, they still operate on that old model where it's like the community decides what events are big, and then Arc Sys went, okay, you guys are already big tournaments, it'll just be auto qualifiers for this thing. And everyone's like, okay, whatever, we're gonna go here anyways.
Yeah, like Frosty,
we were gonna be there regardless.
Frosty's always been like the gear major, right? So if most people are just default to it. Though, like, there definitely were some people who like really wanted to get in, like, especially if they're overseas, like it's like it's pretty happy to go over, right? Like,
Latif went there to qualify. Like, that was
right.
Slash was another person too, which I feel so bad for Slash. He got second at Evo and then fourth at Frosty.
Yeah, man.
Sorry, bud.
You
didn't win, so you don't get to go.
Yeah, Latif and Slash definitely felt like then they were so consistent.
Man. Leffen's another player too who also like plays really like if there was a point system like right now, they would definitely be in like the number 3 slots.
For sure. So it sucks, right? When you think about it like that, and again, like storyline wise, like people are like, oh, I want to see like Latif versus Nubenheimer and something like this because it got interrupted.
They should have considered being American. Okay, what can I say? They should have considered living where the tournaments are, right?
I mean, that's the thing.
So few tournaments. It's so biased to where you live, right? Like I'm looking at the events. It's like USA, USA. USA. So I think 3 out of the 8 are USA.
Yes.
And then it's like Japan and EU, right? So almost half of them are in America.
One in Southeast Asia, but of course, like since there's like one qualifier in Japan or 2, and then there's one like I think was there one in Korea too?
That's the one that I went to.
Okay, so like Japan just went to that too because it was
that flight is it was very cheap for them, so a lot of Japanese players went to that too.
But it's like it's inconvenient for like anybody outside that sphere, which sucks so badly. I hate that stuff. I hate that so much.
But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that is that for DNF Duel, we have a grappler player in top 8. So I'll be tuning in just to watch grappler and DNF Duel because surprise, there is a World Tour Finals for DNF Duel. Did you guys forget about that game? Hello, wake up!
Totally forgot. Didn't even.
Let's go, Mystic!
Oh yeah, Mystic.
Let's go, Mystic.
1 and 2 of the
my favorite Axel player. Let's go.
Yeah, that dude's cool.
Mystic is busted. He got second place in one of them, and then won 2 of them. Like that's a good record.
That dude's gaming.
He's definitely gaming. All right, but Kubo, I didn't realize about Kubo. I didn't know there was a grappler player at Frosty Fossy. Someone told me after the fact that someone won with a grappler, and I'm like, oh, word, like. I gotta that's free React content. I gotta get back and reap the content bucks for that one.
God,
Kubo's too good, man. Kubo's too good. It doesn't matter what anime game is, how long it's been. Like he'll always pull up and just win with
mixing them up because we have Storm Kubo for Street Fighter who plays grapplers, right? So I was like, Kubo, what? Storm Kubo? Like, what did he play before? The name I know him from before. What did he play before?
I remember he played like honestly like a majority of anime games. I've seen him play Persona. Like when Dragon Ball came out, he made top 8 for DVFZ the first year, but it was super stacked and then stopped playing. Like he does it for whatever new game comes out. Like he'll play it and be a monster at it. So it's cool to see him. DNF. I'll play grappler.
Hell yeah, we'll see. We'll see how DNF goes down. I want him to do work.
Yeah,
a lot of really people qualified pre-patch.
I know it's a different game now.
It's totally different. That game has such a weird history, and I guess are the prize pools similar for these games, or is it
they're
more
the same?
for
I believe.
Guilty Gear?
I think they're the same.
Why
are they hefty prize pools?
It's quite a lot. It's like I think first place is like 50,000 or something. It's
wow.
big.
I'm seeing $200,000 total. I think for the event. So that's split between 100,000 prize pool per game. So I guess 50K for first and the rest for like. Listen, why is everyone playing Guilty Gear? Like, there's so much less competition in DNF Duel. If you got at some point, Latif should have been like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, I've gotten so close. Maybe if I just put 1/10 the effort into
learning Swiftmaster,
yeah, pick up Swiftmaster for about an hour on the side at Frosty Frostings, and then maybe, you know, could have got the same prize pool. I don't know. It's funny to me how much the same amount of money is being thrown at DNF Duel, but it just does not matter. It just it cannot overcome the game itself.
I mean, I hope at least maybe this year, like is the game like picking up a little bit more steam since it's patched? Maybe it'll be at Evo. You know, I feel like that's like I might get its like year at Evo. Maybe that could do good for the game. You know,
I don't know. I don't think the patch changed enough. I think the patch made everyone a bit nuttier, from my understanding, and I've not paid too much attention after playing the patch for a little bit. But my understanding is that I think at the core, having everyone be so nutty on offense and still having the defense not be that great, it's just too much. That's my understanding. However, I will be watching this finals, and hopefully my opinion changes, because I think there's some sick ass character designs in that game. And I like the way it looks. It's just the movement being that sluggish with that much offense leads to a pretty grating experience sometimes to play.
Yeah,
and it's still shocking to me that it's like a failed experiment. I don't know what it is. It's very strange to me. Like, you cannot just salvage a game by making a Pro Tour with money. But I guess they didn't advertise a Pro Tour. This whole thing is very strange. There's a lot of money just sitting there.
Yeah.
So Goichi's, you know, counting his payday right here.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we'll see. That'd be Kubo's payday.
I hope. Let's go.
Oh, Brian will be
Listen,
so
you guys
hyped.
can have the Guilty Gear action. I'm waiting for Kubo.
I need Kubo could get the bag.
Let's go. Hell yes. I'd love to see it. Well, any closing thoughts? I think we're at our time limit here. Anything from the crowd? What do you got?
Oh, I was just gonna say, with discussing the world tours, we're starting to see things kind of go back to a little bit of a more normal route because, for example, love Tekken. We're going back offline solely. No more of the online offline thing. There's a part of me that feels a little slightly disappointed. I liked the hybrid of going between both, but I see ultimately that there's a huge problem with, you know, connection, things like that, regions, because, you know, internet in the US. But I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like with it being all offline again. It's a little sad because I think regions won't be represented the same anymore with this, because it's about who can make it out to what. And I'm concerned about that because I like the representation, but looking forward to the tour this year because got to be on the grind, but I really hope that there's going to be more regional representation like there was in the 2022 tour. That's my last thoughts.
I like that we have more offline coming up again, but I think there is huge value in having online tournaments.
Absolutely, for sure.
So I didn't know that. They confirmed that with Tekken. There's no online for the next tour entirely.
Correct. There's going to be the challengers, the dojos, the master,
That's kind of whack,
like it was before. You know, I'm sad about that part. I like that it's offline, but.
Yeah, I think we as a community still need to keep pushing for legitimizing online tournaments within reason, like having smart online tournament planning and incorporating them intelligently. There's a huge value there because there's so many amazing players that they are legitimately strong at the real game, online or offline. They just can't go to events. Yeah. And I think we lose out on a lot of that. And I think we also just have the cultural shift that we need to make to acknowledging and respecting online results as netcode keeps improving and as we plan for those better, right? Just smart online tournaments really add value. So that does kind of suck. We wouldn't have a Gerlanda story, right? Like he probably can't go to every event, you know.
We probably wouldn't have seen
in the finals.
Yeah, exactly. We probably wouldn't have seen a lot of different people represent the way they did at that event if that online offline thing didn't exist. So hope, fingers crossed, maybe there'll still be some representation. Yeah,
we'll see that for Capcom too. They said there's no Street Fighter 6 announcement, but they said they will announce the upcoming CPT season, whatever that is. Which I don't know. Street Fighter 6 coming out, so I guess it's going to be for Street Fighter 6. But
I really hope there's some online involved with Street Fighter 6 qualification. I feel like it would suck if they go the Tekken route and just everything is offline, especially because Street Fighter 6 is going to have way better netcode. So the online experience
That
be so
sounds
much
nice.
better.
That sounds so
There's
nice.
so much potential for Street Fighter 6 online. Like that's why I always push so hard about Street Fighter 5 online tournaments. I still think even now with Street Fighter 5, within reason, you can trust online results, right?
Definitely.
Obviously, if they do, it's about tournament planning and region locking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so people still be like, it's online, doesn't count. And I'm like, you're ignorant. It's really the answer I have. So I'm hoping Street Fighter 6 is an opportunity to dispel that and add that value. Yeah, I think people should. The fact that we had to fly out all around the world to do every tournament is crazy. Like we need to embrace online tournaments. No other esport does that. You play online. You play online and you qualify for the offline portion. Like nobody does what we do. Our passion is great. That's great that we have the passion to do that. But people got lives and they don't have unlimited funds, right? Like we need to have a reality check to a degrry.
Tell him, Brian.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's tiring.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Like that's how you burn people out. By the way, that's how you burn out a competitive scene. By the way,
yeah, I was flying back in before 2019. Before I was flying after work all the time. Like I would leave the office, get on an airport, fly back Monday morning, go to the office. Like that was looking back on it now. I was killing myself. Like I can't do that now. Like I've got maybe call me lazy now and cozy because it's been online. But I think about that now and I'm like, I cannot do that. No. I don't think I can do that anymore. Like that life was just too much. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So
same.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
That's a little unfortunate. Little unfortunate for Tekken, but I'm hoping other games find a good way to balance it because we need the offline hype, but I think we need the online accessibility.
There's maybe a balance to be struck. But I think it's I don't think it's easy to strike the balance fully because you want all the best competition is always going to be at those big majors and you want those to matter a lot, but there is some sort of balance you can strike. I do really also like the regional spots. I think that's really cool. I think like there's exactly with the Gerlando story, like there just wouldn't be that type of story if there wasn't like a tour that kind of accommodated it.
Like
so we'll see. I hope arcrevo next year. Hope they do something.
Hopefully.
Literally anything else. Literally,
we're begging you.
Anything else. We're begging you.
Yeah, and I mean, like, on top of other games like do not view playing online, even in these capacities, as like ideal. It's just like, it keeps everyone sane. They can't fly out everywhere every time, right? Especially on massive scales, like some of these other tournaments are happening, right?
Yeah, I don't
like in MOBAs, for example. Like, I mean, they vastly prefer playing offline to online, but of course, like if you went offline for everything, that would be a lot, right?
Yeah,
right.
Burn you out. Yep.
Yeah. We'll see what the future holds. We got a lot of finals coming up. Capcom Cup soon. Wishing you luck, Chris. I'm wishing myself way more luck because I need way more.
You got this, Chris.
Should be a lot of fun. And I guess that wraps it up. Thanks for watching this episode of the CLGFGC podcast, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.